In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes, where first we discuss why does it rain worms? Then we discuss what amazed Princeton researchers when they did their research. And finally we discuss, has Putin actually proved that Jesus was in fact black?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? What are you going to do, eh?
Oh, good grief. You don't sound that well.
Exactly.
Probably better than me, though.
Well,
Come on.
we'll find out one day who dies
Indeed.
first, and then
Stop it. Right, are you going to keep our tradition up and say hi to
see,
our audience?
I told
Come
you I
on.
was dead. I think that's going to be on my gravestone. I told you I wasn't feeling well. Don't worry, I'll see you in the shower tonight. Actually going to put that on my gravestone, on my headstone. Anyway, sorry, what did you ask?
Come on, are you going to say hi to our audience tonight? Come on. Come on.
Yeah, what the hell? All right, hello.
Hey! Brilliant. Fine. At least you're more upbeat. That's good. Good. Okay. Right. Now, today we have got another one of our popular TNT Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And time permitting, of course, we may get through more than one topic of discussion, but we'll see how that goes. But we'll start with the first one, which is really an unusual one. And it's, why does it rain worms? Now, Taya, you came up with this one.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your theory about this? And why did you come up with this question?
This is a difficult one to have a theory on because everyone strongly debunks everyone else's theories. I mean, they all have their theory, which they believe, but the way they go at others, I mean, they adduce very good reasons why one shouldn't believe the other theories. So when we talk about it's heavy winds and storms, the people who believe in that this is caused by heavy winds and storms, they really trash the other theories, and then you think, yeah, okay, yeah, I buy that. The other theories are dead. But then when you go to the other theories, they turn around and thrash the heavy winds and storms theory, for example. So everybody is thrashing everybody else, and you just end up with your head swimming thinking, oh, worms do fall out of the sky. It's kind of weird.
It is. It is kind of weird.
All said and done, I think the best answer is we haven't the foggiest idea why. I mean, talk about a real mystery.
Well,
go on.
Unlike you, I fall on the side of the fence of being a meteorological issue, because there is one thing that seems to be consistent in a lot of these, because it's not just worms. I think you mentioned
all sorts of things.
Well, yeah, all sorts of things. You get frogs, you get fish, weird stuff. And the thing is, a lot of it is observed, but there's no video evidence, even though some of these examples of raining worms is fairly recent, certainly in the advent of mobile phones and the cameras, etc. So there's very little physical evidence. And also I tend to lie on the side of the meteorological element. I don't believe personally, unless you could, correct me, of course, I don't sort of agree that it's some mythical thing or some alien or something weird like that. I think it is a meteorological phenomenon. We don't fully understand it as to why it does it, but the only consistent thing is it tends to be happening after a storm. So that would sort of although it's it's not a slam dunk, there's a correlation there that the storm can play a part in lifting the small animals because they're small. You're not got giraffes coming down. It's going to be your little rodents, little fish, worms, frogs, etc. that happen to be in a cluster somewhere, picked up, and they come down. Now the point is, a lot of these observations that have been noted have been done by one or two people together. Now, there is a failing in itself because we humans are terrible at assessing just how many things could be falling from the sky. So we could say, oh my gosh, these worms there was thousands of them, when in reality it could have just been a few dozen, because our perspective is pretty poor. And so with the fact that there's very little physical video evidence or photographic evidence, tends to lean on the fact, in my opinion anyway, that these are just meteorological anomalies and nothing to be, what's the term you use? We say when it's no hamburger or something.
Oh, a nothing burger.
A nothing
Yeah.
burger. There you go.
A big nothing burger.
Do you think any differently, or do you have a strong view?
I think differently.
Okay.
The reason being, hang on, where are we? The reason being, oh, why did I close that? I don't know why I closed that. That there are water spouts. We've seen water spouts. We've seen pictures of water spouts. These are tornadoes that travel across a body of water.
Yeah.
And if they can draw up huge quantities of water, just think about how much energy must be in the storm for it to draw up humongous quantities of water. And surely in that water there will be living, or on occasion there will be living creatures.
Indeed.
Tornadoes can climb up very high in the air, and the updraft continues above the right parts of the tornadoes. There's the down parts and there's an updraft. So the downdrafts and updrafts. I read was it read or watched the video? Whatever it was, I came across. Let me ask you this question, just as a matter of interest. Part of what I'm talking about, not directly related, but how high do you think a paraglider has ever gone? What's the highest a paraglider has ever reached?
This is a non-powered paraglider. Are you talking one of these ones with engines? Which ones are you talking
about? Yeah, one with a little engine, just
a little engine.
Yeah.
Oof. I'm not an expert on these sorts of things. I can't even hazard a guess.
Can hazard a guess.
Okay. Couple of 1,000 feet.
Exactly. That's the normal height. No, it's more than a couple, by the way. More than a couple of 1,000 feet. But I believe it's something around 12,000 feet. You actually gone beyond sort of, I've forgotten what it's called. It's called the death zone or something, because that's where you don't have oxygen and it's too cold.
The 12,000 feet.
Yeah, something like that.
That's not very high, actually.
Well, it's if you run out of oxygen and you're really, really cold, I think it's high enough.
It doesn't seem high enough. Do you know what I mean? Because jet planes,
it's at 12,000. It's at
12,000
feet. It's at 12,000 feet.
Yeah.
That your oxygen, the pilot would take and remove below 12,000 feet. The pilot would take and remove your oxygen masks.
If you needed them during the flight, I see.
During the flight, you will descend to 12,000 feet.
I see. That's interesting.
Okay.
Well,
she went higher than Mount Everest. It was a she. She was taking part in an international distance paragliding thing, whatever they're called, the competition, world championships, I believe.
Okay.
And she, another glider, got caught up in an updraft. This is what I'm talking about, updrafts.
Yeah. And
this was a massive storm cell. It was in Australia. Of where else? Where the hell was it? And and her height, as recorded on her gizmo, was about 35,000 feet. She survived, by the way.
Okay. And this was
Amazing.
purely an updraft from a tornado.
No, from a storm cell,
A
from a
storm
massive
cell.
thunderstorm
Right.
system.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to give you an idea of how high these things go.
Hmm.
So you imagine that you're a small creature and you don't have to be at 35,000 feet, but thousands of feet in the
Yeah,
air,
yeah, yeah, sure.
right? And the winds and the weight of the actual fish or animal, whatever it is, like you said, they're not very large.
Mhm.
But given that they're not that heavy either in the
Yeah.
great scheme of things, they can be carried because of the distance, because of the height they've achieved, and the strength of the winds. They could be carried miles away from the source of the event, if
Absolutely.
you like. So
Absolutely.
so so if there's a tornado, it's a water spout, the one that goes over water, sucks up these poor creatures, and then takes them thousands of miles away and deposits them. When they are falling out of the sky, no one will be aware of the singular event,
No, that's
weather
very
event.
true. Very
So
true.
all of a sudden, you've got these things just falling out of the sky from out of nothing. You're looking up thinking, what the heck is going on? So when it comes to fish and then small amphibians and so on and so forth, I can explain that. The reason I'm going to this rather long-winded thing,
Hmm.
and the reason I was specific about worms is that worms aren't water creatures. They're earth creatures.
Yeah.
So what are they doing up in the sky?
Well, I mean, you've made an interesting point. But the thing is, a lot of these animals, like frogs, for instance, they're not really sea creatures, are they? But they appear as well. But there are tornadoes that aren't fully blown tornadoes that do appear all the time, and they work in a similar manner, where they're not a fully formed tornado, but they still have the strength to pull up animals because they're light. So the same example you've given, where a tornado or the beginnings of one, but a very small level one that hasn't fully formed to a proper sized tornado, whatever the categories are for those, I don't know. I think it goes up to 1 to 5 or something like that. I know
Yes,
storms do.
F4, I think.
F4, okay. But you've got the minor ones that don't even make F1,
Mm.
but they're still below that, and they can still, be strong winds. They're going to pick up things, and they're over land.
Yeah,
So
but they're
you're
gonna
going to,
are they gonna suck worms out of the ground though? This is what gets me. The worms. Why I find worms hard to comprehend is worms are not exactly jogging around on the surface. They're inside. What are they? 6 feet in, maybe 6 feet. So
yeah.
not no, sorry, not 6 feet. 6 inches. I meant,
Mhm.
right. So are you telling me that tornadoes come along and it's going like this, and then suck up the 6 foot 6 inches worth of dirt? I mean, I don't actually know how deep they go.
Well, there is a phenomena actually. When rain happens, worms go to the surface because they don't want to drown. And if you notice, birds go hunting for worms in the rain
Afterwards,
and
or
in the
just
rain.
afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, because the worms are easy for them to pick up off the ground. And after rain or during rain is when you spot, as long as the rain is not, really torrential, which can actually damage the birds, they do go looking for worms when it rains because they know that the worms will come out of the ground with fear of drowning. Unfortunately, if there's wind alongside the rain, which commonly is the fact, they will get swept up. But there is a strange phenomena that a lot of worms get seen on the ground after a storm. So there are some people concluding that they must have fallen from the sky, whereas they've actually come up from underneath the ground for fear of drowning.
Mm. When they say worms are falling out of the sky, they actually mean literally falling and falling to your head, for example. So
Yes.
there's no question
But
about it.
again, there's not as many as Pete, like I said at the start of our session, it's not that you've got whole fields worth of worms. It isn't that, because you're in the vicinity. If they happen to be near you, you think you're completely surrounded. It's like rain. When you're in your garden, you think it's raining everywhere, but it could actually be localized in this very small area. It doesn't have to be a huge area. I've been in a situation myself, which was very strange, where I was in a hut, a physical hut, and on one side of the hut it was raining, and the other side of the hut it wasn't. But the rain wasn't even going across the whole gravel that was outside. So it's like, what? But at first, it looked like it was pouring everywhere other than one side of the hut. But when you checked and had to look closely, and we were peering at the window going, actually, this rain's not even very far at all. But it gave that impression at first sight that it was huge, but in fact, it wasn't. So
I've lived through that. It was fascinating stuff.
It is, isn't it? It is.
It was raining next door. But it was, this is back in Nigeria. And this is Nigerian rain, by the way. This sort of insane rain, And it was raining like mad next door. And we were just like, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, the pictures that I saw, and I obviously would love to share them. Pictures I saw were of clumps of worms. They were like horrible looking.
No.
I don't know.
So they were actual captured pictures this time?
Yes.
While they were in the air or on the ground?
Oh no, on the ground,
right.
on the ground. Then I don't know about you, Tony. Maybe you would, because you live life in the fast lane and all that. If it was raining worms, I would stick my hand out of the window and take pictures, but I wouldn't go out.
No, I wouldn't go out in it. No, I'm with you there. I
wouldn't go out there.
I would look out the window and go, wow, look at this. Yeah. But I am not going out there.
Precisely. And I think it being when these unusual falls are over as quickly as they start. And by the time you go, what the heck is that? By the time you've got all that sorted out, it stopped. Because if we are right, if it is a weather phenomenon, then it's a mass that has been carried, the winds have dropped, and can no longer keep them in the air.
Exactly.
So it's all going to be over really, really quickly. And then the next thing you just got them on the ground and all sorts of unfortunate.
That's why there's very little physical footage of them.
Wait, I thought CCTV though would have actually.
Well, that's a good question. I wonder whether that's been looked at, whether there's any captured video footage out there. I mean, we could challenge our listeners. Any listeners out there who are aware of any footage of animals actually coming out the sky, because we haven't found, well, I personally haven't found any that's of any worth that you can actually see. So yeah, it would be interesting to know, because it's not just fish, it's not just frogs, spiders. There's an example of spiders where they've fallen from the sky, although it does make you wonder how many there were.
Spiders. I've got 11 unusual things that fell out of the sky. Fish, which we've mentioned. Yes.
Yeah.
Then we've got frogs, which you've mentioned. Iguanas.
I've heard that one as well.
In southern Florida.
Yeah.
In 2018, an iguana rainstorm. That'd have been.
I think it was because they habitat the trees, and I remember this example actually. There was a particularly cold snap. So iguanas are warm weather creatures. They don't like the cold. They freeze. They stop. They're reptiles, and so they were almost immobilized during this cold snap, and therefore they fell from the trees, and it gave this appearance of raining iguanas, but it wasn't that at all.
You nailed that actually. That's exactly what they said. So that they couldn't hold on to the trees that they were living in, and they got swept up. Golf balls.
Golf balls? Now that one's unusual.
Florida, in Punta Gorda, Florida, 1969.
Okay.
Weirder even still, no local golf courses were missing any balls. They couldn't get to the bottom of that one. But you've just mentioned this. Spiders in Brazil in 2019.
Yeah.
A huge number of spiders. That must have been yucky for lots of people. This is peculiar. In 1969, a
Hmm.
South Carolina factory producing the non-dairy creamer Cremora
Hmm.
was struggling with malfunctioning air vents. It ended up with a rain. The gloppy mess, powder mixture was leaked into the air where it mixed with falling rain and fell in a gloppy mess
Oh,
onto Chester, South Carolina.
oh,
And they
that's
had to pay a fine, a very light fine, $4,000. What?
okay.
Neither here nor there, for surely. Raining meat.
What?
Meat.
Meat?
Flakes of meat.
Flakes of meat? What
And
sort of meat?
the
Bacon?
only, the only
Beef?
reason
What?
the only reason we know is because two residents actually did try to taste the odd things that were falling out of the sky.
Where was this and when was this?
Kentucky, 1876.
1876.
76. Olympian Springs, Kentucky.
Really? Obviously, there's no photography there, evidence. It's all word of mouth. Convinced.
Although the cause was never proven, a
Yeah.
chemistry professor, not named unfortunately,
Okay.
proclaimed the best explanation was that a flock of vultures was dropping or disgorging its latest meal.
Yuck.
Yes, yuck. I mean, why would you eat? Why would you pick stuff up and put it into your mouth? It's Kentucky, 1876.
Oh,
What do you think? Here's one that I wish I was involved in.
yeah.
In 2015, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of United Emirates dirham currency
Hmm.
showered over Kuwait City.
Really? Are you sure that's not some thieves trying to get rid of their loot? You know, like you've seen films like that.
It's entirely possible.
That would
Like
make more sense,
like I
wouldn't
said,
it?
I just was
Oh,
reading that
okay.
kind of thing on my house. That would be
Yeah, that would
really.
be nice. I've seen a number of films that have that, where the baddies have the loot stashed in a tall building, and I mean one in particular, Die Hard, brilliant film.
Oh
That
yes,
tall tower where
yes.
they had all the money and it blew up from somewhere, and so it all
Wow.
rained down. But anyways,
Ladies and gentlemen, just take the money, ask questions later. That's science
exactly.
philosophy.
It's like it's
When
like
God sends you money, He sends you, hey, hey.
it's like Tayo's there going, Tony, Tony, look, there's money. Where's Tony? Tony the knife for Sula's already down the road with the loot in his pocket.
It's long gone, man, long gone. Full top, slow tires. Who's no, no, no. It's not. I'm not that. When it comes to picking up the money, just take the money, guy.
Oh dear me.
And then
Excellent.
finally, space junk, which is not that weird.
Space junk.
Yep, it was the
Okay.
entire model space station Tiangong 1.
Okay.
And
It broke up in the
that broke
atmosphere.
up and that
Right.
rained bits of
Okay.
metal, which was
That's explainable, so that's not a mystery.
it's not
Okay.
a mystery. And
No, no.
besides which they knew where it came from, even you
Well,
mistake they
indeed, indeed. Okay,
yeah.
so what's your view then? Let's wrap up on this particular
I
one.
think strange things do fall out of the sky, and
Hmm.
I think it's not paranormal in any way, sense or
No.
form. The you gave me a good explanation, which no one else had, by the way, about the worms coming out when it's wet and then being picked up by a tornado. So I think with that explanation, I'm satisfied that we know why, on
Yeah.
occasion, worms fall out of the sky.
Mm. Indeed, there are more, yeah, as you've rightly said, not paranormal. They're
No.
just meteorological phenomena. Weird, of course, and still amazing when it happens,
Mm.
but they're explainable. But we put that challenge out to our audience. If there's any, I mean, you've raised a great point about CCTV. Yeah,
Mm.
if there's any footage anywhere on CCTV that actually catches phenomenon such as this in action, that would be great to see. So please, please put the word out, our lovely listeners, wherever you are in the world. If you can let us know you've got any of that footage, we would be very interested. Right, we've done that one. Let's move on. Next one. This is another one of yours where something amazed Princeton researchers. I'll leave it to you to explain what amazed Princeton researchers.
Right. Oh, I lost the original link. Yes. I think I had to ask you, what
Oh,
the
okay. Do you
heck?
want me to talk about it? Because I know about this now because I
Go
did my
ahead, go
research.
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. There was this is a paranormal experiment that some Princeton University researchers were conducting in 1979 in the Peer Laboratory, and the professor in charge of the testing was a Professor Robert G. Jaun. And it was basically focusing on the human interaction of our consciousness with physical devices. Could we could we actually change physical items in our favor using just our mind? And they
Hmm.
conducted some experiments whether humans could, looking at a sequence of numbers, influence that sequence of numbers and produce, it was just ones and noughts. And they had to try and see if they could affect the number ranges. And statistically, they improved the chances more than they should have done. So that
Yeah,
was really strange.
yeah. There's another experiment run by a gentleman called BEM, Professor Bem, BEM. And I'll obviously provide the links for all this. And he did something very peculiar. First of all, he got involved in well, they call it psi. They don't call it parapsychology. I think parapsychology's got
A
a
dirty term.
dirty term in
Mm.
science. So they call it PSI or psi
Like
research.
metaphysics as well is a bit termed. It's not viewed as a proper physics, is it? The
No,
same with
no,
that. So
no.
yeah.
So I think they sort of poo-poo that sort of thing
Mm.
down the noses at it. So he had been asked to, I use the word again, poo-poo
Yeah.
a psi researcher's research, and he couldn't. And he couldn't like, poo-poo the experiment. And then he became very interested in psi research himself,
Mm.
Professor Ben. And he came up with this research, with this experiment, I beg your pardon, which he conducted over several years with thousands of students and became it's highly acclaimed because no one can actually easily debunk it or anything. And what he did was this. He showed test subjects a series of images divided into good, kind, loving images, and then the ones that he characterized as being the sort of horrible things you'd find on CSI. on a,
Oh.
C, on a
Oh, okay.
CSI
Program.
episode. Yes.
For those who aren't familiar with CSI,
All right.
it's crime scene investigation and all that pertains to crime scenes that people are finding dead bodies, dismembered bodies. So obviously we leave the imagination to you, but yeah, it's not very pleasant.
Not pleasant. And what he did was he inverted expectations because what psychologists normally do is they show you the image and then they measure responses to it. What he did was to measure responses to see if
Before,
anyone was anticipating what would come next. Do you see?
yeah.
And there was a statistical anomalous value of people who were reacting negatively before they were shown negative pictures. So you saw good, wait, good,
Mm.
time to respond for the next one, good. Then it was, okay, next one's going to be bad, bam. And it's randomly chosen, of course, and all that sort of thing. So why would you tense up before the bad ones? And
Mm.
there was a statistical departure from the was it the bell curve, whatever you
Yeah, yeah.
expected, the
The thing
normal
was
curve.
that the people being tested
Mm.
weren't aware of
No,
this.
no, no, no.
They weren't
Oh,
aware.
oh, sorry. You mean they weren't aware they were being tested?
No, no, no. They weren't aware of their responses being monitored. It was just they were just showing pictures, and the point of the testing was we're
Mm.
going to show you photos, and we just want to just see what you think of them.
Mm.
So the reactions were natural. it was just a natural response. It's like I did this with my clients just this week, where this is the power of the mind, in my opinion. I got them to imagine cutting up a lemon in the kitchen and then bringing the lemon up to their nose first, smelling it, and then taking a big bite of the lemon
Ugh.
and swallowing it. And look,
Ugh.
you see the reaction. You're
Yes.
doing it as well. There's no lemon here. Yeah, it's our thought, but our thoughts are so strong, it elicits the response in a physical manner in our bodies. So our thoughts are affecting our bodies directly, of course, but our thoughts are just vibrations. That's how they communicate. So do the vibrations in our mind, which is part of this conspiracy show and this particular subject, did the scientists discover that our thoughts were influencing the physical elements that are occurring, or in some way, as you've already said, allowed us to what's the word I'm looking for?
Precognitive.
Precognitive recall. So you anticipate.
That's the word.
Yeah, I don't know the word as well. You anticipate what's coming next in advance. So this shows that our minds are far more powerful than we realize. And clearly, there's a lot going on up here that we're just not aware of yet.
It's my mind, which I used to think was a powerful, keen, terrifyingly immense machine. It's a wimp. It's almost a waste of time, my stupid mind.
Why?
Because
Why you changed your
I have been
tune?
sending positive thoughts and kind feelings to my bank account, and absolutely sweet their face happening. Absolutely nothing.
Do you know
Nothing's
what?
happening.
Do you know what? I've
Yeah.
had that very same question be asked of me, because I'm quite an advocate of not necessarily the law of attraction, but what you put out comes back to you. It's reflected back. So if you put positivity out, you'll get positivity back.
Uh-oh.
But if you put negative out, you'll reflect that back on yourself. It's just resonance. And we vibrate, and that's what happens.
Now, why is Theresa May still alive then?
Oh, stop it. Right. However, it doesn't happen in one sitting. It takes a lot of effort. Also, someone said to me, "Oh yeah,
she's not worth it, man."
Yeah. Also, why can't I win the lottery? They said, I want to attract it, like you've said, my bank account. I need it. I want it. I'm trying to attract it. Positive thoughts. And I said, well, you're not the only one for a start. And secondly, what are you putting out there that deserves that money to come to you? It's a quid pro quo equation. You cannot get something that's undeserving to you unless you're giving something in return of value. What are you giving?
In
Now, some people are
2014,
willing to give their souls to various dodgy people. And yes, they will get presented with a lot of earthly goods. However, they may pay the price later on.
Yeah. There's a good television series like that from a Canadian television series called The Collector. Mid 2000s, I think, early to mid 2000s. Anyway, 2014, on a whim, I bought a lottery ticket for the first time.
Okay.
And that evening, I got a message from the lottery saying, "We have good news for you."
Oh. And?
I thought to myself, really?
They contacted you?
Yeah, they sent me an email.
Whoa.
Saying, "Please check your account. We've got good news for you."
Okay.
And I wasn't working, I was working away from home, sat in my hotel room, terrified.
Really?
I was not a happy camper.
Why?
I didn't want to win. I never expected to win. I just thought this is going to be life-changing. This is going to mess everything up.
Why would it mess everything up?
I don't know why I thought that,
Interesting. Interesting.
And it turned out I won about, £10, 11, some nonsense like that. So there was a mixture of immense disappointment
Hmm.
and relief. I've not bought a ticket since.
Interesting.
I don't want to win the flipping lottery.
The thing is, right, I'm happy to win the lottery because for me, I've thought about already, which is a thing that a lot of people don't do. They like the idea of it, but they don't think it through. And for you, when that realization appeared, you started to ponder, oh my God, this is going to change everything.
Mm,
I'm not prepared for
mm,
this. And this is the key. You have to think it through. What would genuinely happen? How would your life be different? What would you initially do? These are the positive things. But yours also negative. You will get people who find out about it that will come knocking on your door. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for people begging letters that people discover that you've won the money? Are you prepared to flaunt that wealth? Are you prepared to live with the consequences of jealousy that then appears? So these are all the factors that winning the lottery would bring up. And these have to be seriously considered. And a lot of people are not ready for those changes.
mm, mm.
Hence why
They're blowing.
those that win it blow it because they don't know how to deal with it.
Mm,
Whereas when somebody who's acquired wealth, not through parapsychology or wanting it that way, but they've done it through hard work and endeavor and, you know, just investments, etc. They've done it over a period of time, so they can adjust over time. They're
mm.
prepared for it, and so they don't scupper the funds. They don't
Probably feel they
necessarily,
deserve it too.
yeah, because they've worked for it. So
Mm,
there's again this quid pro quo. They've gone out and put the graft in order to get the return, and that's a different psychology. But again, it is all psychology because going back to this experiment where the people in the labs in Princeton University proved, well, they've obviously, there's been challenges to this, of course,
mm.
but if you look at it in isolation, it stands out. It wasn't a problem with the research. So what does that mean? Does that mean
Well,
that there is a power that we
actually,
possess?
actually, that's been challenged. The Princeton study has been challenged, but the one actually, the Professor BEM Bem,
Mm,
Daryl Bem, which
yep.
I've shared a link with you, by the way.
Okay. We'll share that on our
That's from
blurb with our cons.
Cornell University.
Okay.
And the thing about that is that from 2010,
Yeah.
it hasn't been challenged.
Wow.
This remember that he was an experimental psychologist and top dog and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he designed it specifically to to proof it
Yeah.
against all the normal accusations that people. It was designed that way. It was designed to be something that you just couldn't sort of just
Hmm.
take your standard arguments to. Double blind. No, 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 no. All that
Was
was
this Dr. Roger D. Nelson, did you say?
no Daryl Bem.
Oh,
Daryl.
Daryl. Okay.
I've sent it to you. There's a link on your WhatsApp.
Ah,
And
yes. Got it.
and before that, there's that 15 weird things that fell out of the sky. That's a
Ah,
YouTube,
okay.
and that's actually got the things falling out of the sky,
Oh, well done. Okay, we'll share that with
including some poor
our
unfortunate
blurb.
gentleman. I don't know. I think I know what that story is, and that didn't end well. So
Okay.
I'm surprised that YouTube let it stay there, but
Hmm.
there we are.
All right.
Anyway, so there we are. Yes. So
Interesting.
my
Do you
thing
think,
is,
therefore, going a
mm,
step further from here, if
mm,
this has been corroborated, I mean, I've believed it all along because
mm,
I don't know if you remember, well, many shows back, I spoke about that test that I did with a glass of water. Do you remember that?
yes, yes, I do.
For the benefit of our audience who haven't heard me tell this story, I'll recap it very quickly. There's a book that I read, and the name of the book escapes me, but when I find it, I'll put it in our blurb. And basically, it teaches us how we can use our minds to control very simple things. And one of the tests that I did and tried it myself and it worked was a glass of water. And
Matchstick,
it,
huh?
yeah, in the top, I put a Rizzler. I've got to use the brand name because I can't remember what it is. Do you remember, cigarettes? They used to roll up cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
It's those pieces of paper that they used to roll them up.
Oh, I
One
see.
of them
Mm-hmm.
with a pin in it, a sewing pin. So I rested it in it and then I pop it on this water. Now, what happens is, as it sits on the water, the paper gets wet and the paper eventually sinks come and leaves the pin. The pin is now floating on the surface of the water, which was the whole point of doing this. Now, without touching the glass, you're allowed to put your hands near the glass but not touch it. Focus on the pin. And in the book, it gives you some lessons to apply before you get to this bit, because this is the big experiment right at the end of the book. So you put your hands around the glass and you focus on the pin and you try and make it move. And part of the test is you make the pin move clockwise and it moves. And you're just thinking it. It's like, oh, it's a bit freaky when you do it. It's like, oh my gosh. Now, that's not all, because you can poo-poo that and think, oh, well, it's got to be heat from your hands
Mm-hmm.
or something. However, you then focus again. You then stop it moving and make it go the other way. And you
Mm-hmm.
manage to do that too. And it freaks you out when you do it. It's like, what? I must be honest, this was an experiment I did about, it must be almost 20 years ago now. And it freaked me out back then. And I didn't revisit it because I was surprised I was even able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to find the book. I've got to find that book
There
again.
are there are all sorts of
Yeah.
techniques. That's one. The other one is to take a square of paper. I believe I can't remember what the dimensions, 2 inches by 2 inches or 3 inches by 3 inches, and then to fold it in such a way that it forms a pyramid. Do you know what I mean by
Oh,
folded?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then put it on a pin
Hmm.
and sit back and just rotate it this way and rotate it that way with your mind. So you
And it
don't
does, it moves.
it moves. You can actually do this. So the actual question about is there's telekinesis. I think I don't understand why there would even be a question about it. It's like, in my opinion, it's just like, well, if you've done it, Tony, and I've done it, I mean, who hasn't done it? It's just,
Well, indeed, yeah.
anybody is not that special. Anybody can do it. And
But
there are
why do we
times when
not
you just
poo-poo? Why does everyone poo-poo it then?
everybody
When
doesn't poo-poo. Everybody, you have these smart asses who want to be wiseacres, I think the Americans call them. Although I saw it in the Oxford English Dictionary of English, so who knows? They have these people who it's easier for them to be skeptical,
yeah,
and then they make other people skeptical. So other people are just they don't want to be laughed at, and so they to just go along with it, and then you end up with everybody sort of going on that track where
and you're
most people don't
dumbing
believe it.
everything down.
Just
Yeah.
dumb, yeah, and it's
Mm.
just for times just to say, well, well, okay, come and do it now. Say, look, dude, I
Yeah,
can't do
yeah.
it now, but I tell you what, if you don't want to believe me, it's perfectly fine. Just don't worry about it. You live your life. You do you. I'll do me.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
saw. You, Tony, you know what you saw. And it's like, why do I have to do it? Why can't you do it? Because it's
Yeah,
you prove it to yourself. Or people
indeed.
say, no, you have to prove it. You have to prove it because you're the one making the allegation, which is fair enough. So you just think, well, you know what? I'll withdraw the allegation. Just live your life, man.
Mm.
and and
Interesting.
and that's that. But as
Do you think
there was
therefore?
one, there was
Oh,
an
go
earlier
on.
one, earlier in the 70s, I believe I told you
Hmm.
about it. I mentioned this before. BBC. There was a program. Now it was this BBC Two, and I can't remember the name of the blooming program.
Hmm.
And what they did was they got a whole bunch of people to perform an experiment, to do something that was difficult.
Yeah.
And I remember it was I've got a very clear picture in my mind of the lecture theater they were using. They got them in and they got them to solve this problem, whatever it was. And they said, thank you very much. Off you go. And they went. Then they got a different set of people in. I don't know whether it was the same day or different day or whatever, but
Hmm.
a different set of
Yeah.
people and asked them to solve the same problem. And they did it quicker. And it turns out that other groups will always do it as quick or quicker than the previous groups.
Wow.
And then that has been transferred to experiments with rats. Any rat anywhere on the planet that solves a maze will solve it slower than the next rat that solves the maze. Anywhere on the planet,
Faster, you mean?
slower.
We'll
The
solve
first
it
rat,
slower.
the first rat solves it
Yeah.
in time X, say 2
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Well, the next rat that solves that anywhere on the planet will be quicker than 2 minutes.
Is this something, therefore, we've now
It's
missed?
like a hive mind or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So are we, you see, we've often speculated, I think we covered it in our previous show, whether we live in a simulation.
Yeah, we're always saying that now. We
Mm.
must be the TNT simulated show. The TNT
Could it
simulation show.
could it be that we're looking at it all in the wrong place? Could it be that nature is an entity itself, is an
Mhm.
intelligent entity? So it finds a suitable planet, it beds itself in, and it grows and spawns, and things grow within it. The nature is the entity, and all the bits within it are its organs almost. So we, in some way, are all linked to nature. All the creatures, plants, animals, biosphere, whatever of this nature are all linked. We are all one thing, but we exist on this particular planet as a whole. So nature itself has intelligence. So it
That's
if
that's almost your take of the Gaia theory. It's your sort of that's like a kind of Tony-esque Gaia theory, where Gaia is this Mother Nature of or is nature is the almost sentient
hmm,
being that comprises that no that yeah everything together comprises Gaia, the Gaia system.
so that means then there is a theory of evolution in a way because it's nature doing it.
Mm, I don't like it much, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
I think you're on the wrong. I think you're betting on the wrong horse there
Okay. I'm just
because
throwing this out there. I'm an advocate of it. I just thought it now, literally on the spot. So I'm
yeah,
not giving it much thought. It just felt strange because we're talking about this thing that you said about the rats. The
mm,
humans have proven that we have some psychokinetic ability, of which we're going to talk about whether the CIA have latched onto that and actually, you know, industrialized it somehow. But that aside, for today, this makes me wonder whether the animals and everything around us are in some way linked for us to
no,
have this ability.
no. I'll tell you why. I think if you are going to look at the situation and say to yourself, "This is all a system that has been put together for us to observe," you would have to ask yourself this question, and I've posed it all the time. I'm going to pose it once more. How come the moon is 1/400th the size of the sun and is 1/400th the distance to the sun from the earth?
Yeah,
That to me,
but that's
that's
using our measurements.
that to me is not, it doesn't matter whether it's using our measurement, anybody's measurements. It's 1/400th of the distance to the sun. And it's 1/400th the size of the sun. That's why you have perfect solar eclipses. If it was any different, the moon would either be a very small speck that went across the sun, or blot it out entirely. You'd never see the corona. Instead of which, It's like, hey guys, every X number of years, here's this little miracle for you to
Yeah,
observe.
but these are all.
And you're going to say, if you're saying that's an accident, then you might as well say that you're an evolutionist because it's as much as a coincidence. It's like there's no other moon like ours in the solar system.
I get that. We did a show on the moon as well, which was quite interesting. I'm not.
And I mean, it is too nice. It is as nice in inverted commas as other, not others, I'm not a scientist, but as scientists who go, they look at what they call the fine tuning of the universe, and they go, "Oh, come on, there's a God." He's like, "Look, man, his fingerprints are like a smear all over this, man. It's too nice." See, you know what I'm trying to say? It's not 460. It's not
Hmm.
340. It's just it. Come on. I think the designer dropped one there because I think he just made it like, oh, he did it on purpose so that we'll go like, okay, we get it. That's exactly how I feel about it. Like, nah, come on, come on, come on, come on,
Yeah,
come
but
on.
that doesn't. That's not much different to what I've just said,
No,
is
no, no,
it?
no, because then in that case, it's not that nature. You said that nature found the planet. No, it's not that found the planet. This planet was made for us. It's in the Goldilocks zone.
I know it is.
It's everything is just as it has to be.
Although there's still a lot of failures, not failures, but really weird things which don't add up either. So
Like
it's not
what? Like what?
quite as
Give me
not
one.
quite as
No, give me
perfect
one.
as
Give
you've
me one.
made out.
Hmm.
Okay,
Like,
I'm giving you my particular issue that I'm having to be treated for. I've got kidney problems, and the pipe from the kidney isn't big enough for the debris that's created from the kidneys.
hmm you see,
Now,
I want to say the good Lord because it's much easier that way than going around in circles.
okay.
When the good Lord sent us down, he didn't give us, he didn't give us a a manual. We weren't born with a manual, so we find our way. And some of us sup deeply, we quaff deeply of the joys of life. We not only imbibe wine, we don't want to just imbibe wine. We suckle wine. We enjoy it. We interact
This
with
is
it
this is my staple
for
diet.
now. But before, for years and years, we were doing something where, in moderation, might have been a worthwhile tenet to remember. And now, all of a sudden, we are blaming the good Lord. Look, he never said, when he said this, my son, if you believe in Christian, my son, how many? 10 in his entire lifetime. 5 flagons of wine. That was it. You do 5 flagons of wine in 2 weeks. What the hell? And then you blame me for it. No, come on, man.
Listen, that wine is nasty.
No, I mean, basically what you've just asked is the age-old question: why is there suffering in the world? That's the basic thing. Okay, it boils down to ignorance. If I had been born 20 years earlier, 30 years earlier, they wouldn't even have known what a burst appendix was.
Indeed.
I'd have died at the age of 8 when my appendix burst.
Yeah.
Ignorance. Some guy with a chicken feather would have been waving his chicken feather over me. That wouldn't have stopped me from dying.
Mm.
But we know more now, so we can do things now. A time will come. I mean, this anti-aging drug that they've found
Discovered, haven't they? Yeah.
2 years ago, and I think it'll be ready. Maybe too late for you and me,
Mm.
but who knows? In 50 years, 100 years time, they'll be watching this TNT talk show. They'll be saying, "Oh, bastards! Really, they were living like that? How terrible!" Because we know more.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a game, and the more we learn of the game, the better we can play it.
yeah. Okay. I mean, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to do another quick one if we can, but we've done this topic. So, what's your view then? Are the Princeton researchers, were they right to be amazed to discover that the humans could have an effect on the physical properties
I
of the
think that I think
experiment?
they're late to the party, to be honest.
Hmm.
I think they're late to the party. I think what they're trying to do now is they're trying to convince the skeptics. They're trying to present in incorruptible, incorrigible.
Irrefutable evidence,
That's
maybe?
the word I was
Or what?
looking for. That's the word I was looking for.
He's coughing away here. You put yourself on mute. He's still on mute. He's coughing away there. There you go.
Sorry,
You're
yes,
back.
I lost the screen there.
Mm.
Yeah, they're trying to create irrefutable evidence, but I think the people they're trying to convince will never be convinced, no matter what you show them.
Indeed.
But it's like Dr. Ian Stevenson, the gentleman who turned me onto reincarnation research.
Yeah.
It's like he in the end just gave up and just said, well, here's the evidence. If you do what you want with it. So I think it's good that they've done it, and I know now that there's the University of Virginia has got this. I think it's called parapsychology now. I think remember when we were saying earlier that
Yeah.
I think it really is the department for
Parapsychology. Yeah, they actually
parapsychology.
opened a department. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which
Where
which
before they wouldn't go near it with a barge pole.
no, but then there's enough data now for I think you've got to be a little bit more serious than I don't believe that.
Yeah.
So I think we're headed somewhere. Who knows, in 100, 200 years' time, it could be that people have got huge endowments and they're working on these things, and we know a lot more about it than we do now.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we can control our physical surroundings. We're still babies in that arena.
Mm.
Mind you, there are going to be some people who have probably have more capacity than we, the general population, have. I think they maybe have moved up to infant status in that terms of using their mind to
Well, your
control
Tibetan
matter.
monks,
Yeah, the ones who
the,
practice
one,
it.
the ones who can dry their robes sitting in the cold on top of a mountain, atop a mountain, and then they're doused with water. And just through meditation, you see the
The
steam
steam, yeah, heat it
rising off
up.
them, and they're warm. And you and I
Bonkers.
would be died of hypothermia.
Well, yeah, because we haven't mastered what they've mastered using the
Exactly.
brain. So yeah, but yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and conspiracy, no, I think is truth here. And as you rightly say, who knows? In a few years' time, we maybe make more use of it, and for the betterment of mankind. Who knows?
Well, the Cornell University study supposedly has been irrefutable since 2010.
Wow,
So I think people need to explain that away if they want to.
indeed, indeed. Okay, cool. Right, we've got a couple of minutes. Another real quick one, and this is one that you've come up with, but
Oh,
this
yeah.
is really quick because we're nearly at the top of the hour.
Oh,
Yes. Has President Putin proved Jesus was black?
quick answer, no. But he has, and I've got a picture here, which I'm going to share with you because I've read for it. He has an icon. I believe it's the oldest icon in the Orthodox Church,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows a black Jesus. So he hasn't proved that Jesus was black, but it's the oldest icon. And there was an unfortunate video that went out, and people started saying all sorts of stupid things about it. He never said this proves that Jesus was. He never said anything like that. That's straw man.
Hmm.
That's building up a straw man thing where he never said it. It's the video. Anyway,
The thing
yes.
is, I've seen a lot of these black icons,
Mm,
and I've been to Eastern Europe and I've seen them. So it's nothing unusual for Eastern Europeans
mm.
with black icons. But what happened in with this particular, there was a viral video that did the rounds that originated with Putin's footage. Yeah, that's common. That's common. Um, those pictures there. Even my parents had something similar with a black Jesus. So it makes no odds. That's not proof in itself. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, that's just an ornament. It doesn't prove anything. Although personally, I
Why
do
would it be?
believe
Why
he
would it be
wasn't
black though?
white. He
No, but
wasn't
why would it
white.
be? Why would it be black though? Why
Well,
would the
in that,
oldest ones be black, and then was the later ones that were white?
well, that's influence from the West.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if there hadn't been influence from the West, then all the Jesus would be black, and no
Well,
one today would think that Jesus was blonde, blue-eyed.
well,
This is what the
how
Americans think.
I know. How many people from that region are blonde and blue-eyed? They might be light-eyed, but they're certainly not blonde. So the actual depiction of somebody from that region clearly doesn't marry up with someone blonde and blue-eyed, does
Hmm.
it? So that's a change of the image of Jesus for a predominantly white Western culture. That's all.
I think
Um,
it was that gentleman in the, was it Da Vinci or Raphael? Who was it that painted the classic Jesus with the
yeah.
long blonde hair and the
Uh,
classic? It was some Italian painter.
Leonardo da Vinci or
Well,
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, was he the one? Yes.
He did the Sistine Chapel.
That's the guy. That's the fellow, I think. So I think it was his Jesus that became the standard.
Hmm.
Before then, Jesus had appeared in all sorts of forms, not necessarily white, but just not that classic Jesus
Hmm.
with the
Yeah,
beard with
yeah,
the
yeah.
long blonde, kind of hippie. What I call the hippie Jesus, right? Michelangelo, did you say?
Yes.
Yes, I think he was the creator of that look, which is what
Okay.
really took
Which
off.
is understandable. Sistine Chapel is in Rome,
Hmm.
predominantly white people. They're going to do a picture and pictures of a lot of the artifacts and the the statues, the images are going to be predominantly white because that's the audience they're catering to. It would have been rather odd had they produced different skin types for
It would
the.
have been odd but believable in a
It would have
sense.
been believable, and they
It would
probably
have
would have believed
been.
it. But
They say,
there you
well,
go.
that's what it looked like, but I don't
Mm.
think. I think it would have been believable, but a hard sell.
Indeed, indeed.
It was an easier sell.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Anyway, we're
I
getting to
can
the
just
top of the
imagine people
hour.
saying, "I'm sorry, who was Jesus again?" Nah, bruv, nah, nah.
Okay. I mean, let's summarize here then. So has President Putin revealed that Jesus was black?
No, he never even
Mm.
tried to.
That video was a viral video which purported to do so, but he never did.
Misinterpreted.
Indeed, indeed. Okay. Unfortunately, we have now reached the end of the show for another week.